Is this working? Hello. Oh god, I hate technology. Is this working? Ah, fuck, I should have thought about this. I should have gotten someone. Okay, hang on. Let's have a look, shall we? Hey, it is. Alright, cool. Let's have a listen to see what the volume sounds like, I guess. Hey, it is. Alright, cool. Okay, seems good. Alrighty, fuck. Alright, I guess we'll see if anyone shows up, I guess, but otherwise I'm just gonna start talking, I guess. I just feel like chilling tonight. I'm gonna just make a little magic deck. The main reason I'm doing this is because, to be perfectly honest, I'm really bored. And I just kind of have to do something or I'm going to go insane, even if it is at midnight. Because, you know, I'm healthy, I guess. I have healthy coping mechanisms that definitely don't impact me or my social life at all. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes, I guess. Just putting this on the socials because, you know, maybe someone will find this interesting. If not, I don't really care. I'm just kind of doing this for me more than anyone else. Currently live on the YouTubes, making a little magic deck because I am bored. Come join and chat. Let's spell that correctly and not put a B where an N should be. Yeah, let's do that. Alrighty. Let's just see if anyone hops in. If not, I'm just going to be sitting here mainly chatting about Ruby because that's what this is. So this is. Oh no, where'd that go? How do I pin that? Can I pin that? Oh god, I don't know how to use this shit, man. No, it doesn't look like I can pin that. Okay, can I pin it on YouTube? Does that let me pin? Pop out, chat. Hey, I'm a genius. I want it on record that I am, in fact, a god. No, what? Oh, no, I'm not. I don't know how to do this. I want that full screen, then I want... No, I don't want it pinned that. I want it... Huh? How do I use this? Looks like it's gonna disappear every time I... Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, there. Hang on. How do I... There we go. Is that impacted what you see? It does. Never mind then. Fuck it, I'm just gonna get the chat on my phone. That'll probably be much less of a hassle for me. Anyway, yeah, so I guess I should actually explain what I'm doing. Even if no one's watching, it's still just polite, isn't it? So I should begin by prefacing this with a little story. A few months, I say a few months, like a month ago? I honestly don't even know anymore. A while ago, my friend group and I all said, wouldn't it be funny if we all did, like, made a custom magic deck? And I thought, you know what? I like that idea a lot. And so, what I ended up coming up with ages ago was an idea called Locke's Super Friends. It is, I don't even know anymore. It was essentially a deck based around planeswalkers, specifically existing planeswalkers. I essentially wanted to see what would happen if I made custom cards for each planeswalker, or at least most planeswalkers that already existed, rather than making things from scratch. It was my little, it was a little challenge to myself. It was, I don't want to just make anything, anything and everything. I want to make something specifically with a theme, and that theme is what can I do with these planeswalkers? What would I do differently? What would I add? And it ended up being a little bit overpowered, I'll admit. It ended up being interesting to say the least. So I'm using, or I used, I still am using MTG Design to do this. Not sponsored or anything. It's really good. It's a good site. It really lets you kind of go to town with what you want to make. It doesn't have everything, of course, but like it had everything I needed to, and it has everything that I currently need it to, so it's fine. So yeah, the gimmick of this deck was, other than like artifacts, enchantments, there was only planeswalkers. And it took me a while to figure out how to do that, but eventually I realized I wanted it to be a no creature deck. So everything that could have been a creature was instead a planeswalker. Which made it really tough, I'm not gonna lie. But it's okay, because my commander actually works quite interestingly. The commander I made, Lock the OC, because, yes, had this ability here. So, it's Wooburg, so a white, a blue, black, a red, and a green. For a legendary planeswalker, Lock starts with 5 loyalty, and can be your commander, of course. It has the passive ability, planeswalkers you control are creatures in addition to their other types. Their power and toughness are equal to their loyalty. Now this idea came about when I was looking at the cards, like when we initially had this idea, I just couldn't decide what to do. Until I should probably do this in an incognito tab, shouldn't I? No, that's another window. Fuck. Do you have to do... you know, do I have anything interesting? No, I'm fine. There is a card in Magic called Luxior. And it is a very cool card. One that I do not have, but I kind of wish I did. Essentially, if I can get a good pick of it. Yeah, here we go. Essentially, it does... God, I can't use the internet. I'm just so bad at all this internet stuff. Open link in new tab? No. I'm open image in new tab, right? Open image in new tab. I'm so good at this. Anyway, so Luxior Giada's Gift is a 1-drop legendary artifact enchantment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. An equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. I saw this card and I was like, fuck, I want to do that, but different. I want to do it in my own little twist. Again, that was the theme of my deck. It was everything that had already been done with my own little twist. And I was like, okay, what can I do with Luxior? What can I do differently to make planeswalkers creatures, or to make planeswalkers something like creatures? You know, I couldn't really figure it out. And I thought, okay, what if my commander... oh god, hang on. I don't know how to do that. Alright, whatever. Yeah, I was thinking, what can I do with this? And the idea came of, what if, like, my commander's passive just did that? What if planeswalkers were just creatures in addition to planeswalkers? Which opened up some interesting interactions, we'll get into that in a minute. Anyway, so my commander himself isn't actually that interesting. He just has 0 cost, 0 loyalty to proliferate, essentially just an uptick of 1, and then a -1 to activate the loyalty abilities of other target planeswalker an additional time this turn. Essentially, they are there just as an engine. They are there to turn things into planeswalkers and not be a massive threat, because if they die, the entire deck kind of falls apart, which I realized very quickly. So I was like, okay, I will make them as small as possible, as insignificant as I can, just so like there are much bigger threats on the board. No one's realistically going to be targeting them. And that worked, in all fairness, quite well, but to a little bit of a too good degree. I made cards that were a bit too a bit too much. But you know, it was part of the fun. It was like I'll go through my little thought processes here. So this is what I first did. I first got up a list of like lands I wanted. This was the first thing I did. It was get up like a good chunk of land that I knew I was going to have. I was like dedicated 35 lands, bit low for a Wooburg deck, but I figured like because this is custom Magic, I can kind of figure it out. I can, I can get some other stuff in there. And so I got that sorted and got all that done, and then I moved on to the sigils. Now these sigils, represent the 10 guilds of Ravnica. They're essentially, I call them buff signets. I'll show you Rakdos, because Rakdos is probably the simplest and also probably my favourite, just because of the flavor text I did for it, which is a bit like tooting my own horn, but I'll take it. So, here we go. Rakdos Sigil. Can I open this in new tab? I can. Rakdos Sigil. It is three colorless. No, three generic. Sorry. For an artifact, you can tap it to add black or red, which is Rakdos colors, or you can pay 2, tap it, and deal 2 damage to any target. This was the running theme throughout the sigils. This was one sigil for each guild, essentially doing something that guild did. For example, Rakdos, just good at damaging, really. So I was like, you know what, it'll just, plain and simple, deals 2 damage. But the reason I like it is the flavor text. I didn't do much flavor text because Planeswalkers innately cannot have them. There is not a single Planeswalker card with flavor text, and I didn't really want to change that. But so it's like I put it into the things like sigils and the other cards. Anyway, so yeah, the flavor text of this one is: the majority of the cult of Rakdos hadn't even realized a war had taken place. Chaos is chaos, after all. Which probably means nothing to anyone bar a few people. But essentially, all sigils flavor text referred to an event in Magic's history called the War of the Spark, which was essentially this giant battle between a bunch of planeswalkers in Nicol Bolas, who we'll get onto in a minute. So yeah, all of these sigils. This is the wrong one. There we go. The sigils all represented something and all had the little flavor text. So for example, like I said, Rakdos deals 2 damage, it just pings, it's just there to be a little bit of a nuisance, as the Rakdos are. But the Selesnya one I quite like. Same as always, 3 cost, tap it to add green or white, and then it's 2 cost ability. The next spell you cast this turn has Convoke, which is quite powerful, but also like you're having to pay 2, and because you have to tap it, like, it felt like a good mix. It's essentially 3 mana to activate any of these abilities, and none of them are like horrifically powerful. You know, there's like a Surveil one, so you just look at top card library, put it into the graveyard, or leave it on the top. Not that bad. Target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. Really not that bad. And then I got to Gruul, and I made this thing called Planar Riot. Now, Planar Riot is a variation of an existing thing called Riot, which essentially the next creature spell you cast has either haste or enters with a +1/+1 counter. And I was like, how can I change that to Planeswalkers? Because realistically, if I don't have my commander out, Riot will not do anything for me. So I was like, okay, we'll make Planar Riot. And it was just, like I said, it was a variation thereof. I'll see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. Yeah, oh, again, the whole deck's theme, in my eyes, was variation. Here we go. So, the next Planeswalker you cast has Planar Riot. I will let it load on the live stream, because there is a lag. There we go. The next Planeswalker you cast has Planar Riot. This Planeswalker enters the battlefield with your choice of an additional loyalty counter, or a second activation this turn. So again, very similar to that Riot, but with a Planeswalker twist, which I actually kind of really loved. Like, it was just so... Again, this is to my own home, but I don't care. There are some things I'm good at. This isn't one of them, but this specific, Planar Riot, it was like... It was one of those moments that was like, yes, okay, this is what I'm after. Planar Riot is the example I give when I'm trying to explain this deck and what my thoughts are with it. It's like, it is a variation of an existing mechanic that is kind of overpowered, but overall isn't something that I wouldn't see Magic doing. So I did all those sigils, I guess, going back to the original. And then, like I said, I knew I wanted a bunch of Planeswalkers, so I had a list of every single Planeswalker, deleted the ones I didn't like or care about, which is why Jace isn't on this list, because I don't like Jace. And like I got rid of a few others that like no one really cared about. Kind of like Domri. I was going to put in a Domri card, but like I just don't care about him, so I just dropped him. I eventually got down a list of 40, which it took a surprising amount of time to get that many, because there were so many that like I wanted to include, so many I had ideas for. Anyway, so then I went down and jotted down all of the colours that they have been represented by in the past. So, for example, Elsbeth has always been white, Dak is blue and red, Narset is kind of... Narset has been like blue and red and then blue and white, so okay, she's all three. Similarly, like, is a good example, Sarkhan. Sarkhan is sometimes just red, but overall he has been in the past black, red and green, so we put that down. And I just jotted them all down. Then I went over to spells and I was like, I kind of left this to last. This was one of the last things I did. But it was make some enchantments, some instants, and some sorceries. None of these were really like the main focus of the deck, but you know, you kind of need them. You can't just have 90 or, you know, God knows how many planeswalkers. It would just not be functional. You need something in the mids to do. So I made some little spells and got those sorted. Some of them are pretty fucked, I'm not gonna lie. But I added a little kicker sub-theme almost. I don't really know why. Let's see if I can find one as an example. Yeah, Gatewatch Recruitment, here's a good one. So yeah, it has search your library in a graveyard for target planeswalker card, reveal it and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. And then it has Kicker, so if it was kicked, you can put the card revealed this way onto the battlefield instead. I had quite a lot of cards that were either Kicker or multi-kicker, or I think I had a Cleave in there somewhere. Just to kind of like spice things up, I think. It was just like, I don't have many spells, so I'm going to make what they... So what they can do is going to be able to be enhanced if you have the mana for it, you know? There's like this little boost to give them something of interest. I struggled with the names, I'm not going to lie. I really struggled with some of the names. But I got through it all eventually, and then my focus turned to the Planeswalkers. Now, I went a bit stir-crazy with this, and did a bit too much work. I'm not going to lie. So again, I cannot stress this enough. My main focus was existing things done my way. And I figured in my tiny brain, the best way to do that, and the best way to kind of control myself and make sure I wasn't going off the rails, was to go through every single card and make notes of what these Planeswalkers can already do. We started simple, started with just the colours, so you know, I got the entire colour list done. And I did like a little break to make sure I didn't get confused with what these colours were compared to these colours. And I made some little things here, some little, what are they called? Chapters, I don't know, words are hard. So we've got like token generation. If they generate a token, I put them in green, and then what kind they make. So Johnny's quite commonly made soldiers, Arlen makes a lot of wolves, Ashiok can sometimes make nightmares, and if there was like a conditional way they made tokens, like if they had to have something specific, like Koth can kind of make tokens, but he does it through animation, so turning lands into creatures, which I was like, doesn't really count, but also doesn't fit anywhere else, so I'll stick it in there as a yellow. So in Nissa, then like, you know, counters and keywords, so if they either give people counters or give people keywords, then I would drop them down here. Sometimes, if it was a specific thing, I would make an additional note, so like, Ashiok doesn't give keywords, but they do mill, so I was like, that's close enough. Similarly here, we got like, kind of keyword and it untaps. I was really on the fence. Similarly here, Liliana gives -1 rather than +1 counters. And then I went on to like, I won't go through all of these, but you know, you can see like how much work I did. I went through every single card that these Planeswalkers had and made notes of all of them. Plus I made like additional little notes here. So like Arlen cared about day and night cycles because she's a werewolf. We've got like Nicol Bolas, I just put Game Enders because he is a card full of Game Enders. He is like, I think one of his abilities is like a -7, opponents who don't control a legendary lose the game. I was like, that's so fucked. I want that. So again, we'll get onto Nicol Bolas in a minute. But you know, like landfall, Serra Angels everywhere for Serra. I wonder why she makes Serra Angels. There were quite a few cards that, like, a surprising amount, that either controlled players or gave extra turns, and I immediately kind of made the conscious decision that I did not want to do either of those things, because it is not fun. It is not fun to suddenly have your turn just stolen. Equally, it is not fun to just see someone get 3 turns and cause an infinite loop. I hate infinite loops in Magic, so I made a note to just fully avoid that. Pardon me. So like Teferi, no extra turns. Sorin, no controlling players. The fact that they can even do that is awful. Anyway, so I got done with my master list of cards that already existed, and at this point I think I had already spent 15 hours making all these notes, because like I was so thorough with it for some reason. No, not 15, sorry, 5. Why am I saying 15? 5 hours on this, and then it came to actually like making my own. And again, I went a bit stir crazy here. So I had to make like an entire sheet on its own. I was trying to fit them all into this little sheet I had, but I realized there was so much text to go into it that I just couldn't. So I made another little table. I say little, this thing is fucking huge. Hang on. Like, look at all this, man. I had to make a key because I kept forgetting what I was doing. Oh yeah, I can change that to 42. So you have completed them now. Boink. There we go. So, there are a few things of note here that I want to quickly draw your attention to. Number one is I did want to do completed Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers that had been completed by the Grand Phyrexia. So I did the classics, like the ones that had already been completed. I didn't necessarily want to complete anyone else, because it seemed a bit weird to kind of just go off my own like that, because again, this is meant to be a variation deck. But what I did do is complete one person that wasn't already completed in the lore. If I can find it. Khan, here we go. Who is not highlighted correctly. There we go. I did complete Khan, but that was only because technically he's been completed before, and I thought it would be cool. But again, so like all of those are kind of in different colours. I put it on the wrong thing. It's been too long since I've looked at this. Should I? There we go. So yeah, all the completed Planeswalkers have the same thing in common, which is poison counters, because I felt like being a bit of a dick. Although in my defense, I did ask my playgroup, I was like, is it cool if I just put some poison in here? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And I took that as an enthusiastic yes. Because who doesn't love poison, am I right? Who doesn't love poison? Yeah, they didn't like it. But then came, like, you know, thinking of my abilities, thinking of how much they would cost, starting loyalty, things like that. So I made a little table. Again, little being the wrong word to use. So, on the left you have how much they cost. So, for example, Ajani is 2, a white and a green, and then a Phyrexian white and a Phyrexian green, because I couldn't think of like a better way to put it there. Angrath is 2 generic, a black and a red, and so on. You know, that starting loyalty here. I think the only one of interest is, yeah, here. Urza actually starts with an X cost loyalty, because I wanted to make an Urza that wasn't like insanely powerful, but was still powerful, because, you know, it's Urza. He's like the Planeswalker. That's why he's called Urza Planeswalker. So I made him an X cost. His loyalty is X, and then like the majority of his abilities care about whatever X is in different manners. So, for example, he doesn't actually have like an X cost, ironically, but you know, enters the battlefield, distribute X loyalty counters among any number of Planeswalkers, where X is the money pumped into him. Each creature you control gets plus X or plus to their attack or to their defense, where X is equal to the amount of Planeswalkers you control. You know, he is all about X's and how many Planeswalkers and helping Planeswalkers. Yeah, because I just thought it was cute. Then we went into the spicy stuff, labeling. So, if they have a plus ability, it's green. If they have a minus, it's red. If they have an emblem ability, it's this purple. If it's an X cost, it's this nice pink. And then finally, there were some 0 costs, which I put in blue. And here I didn't want too many emblems, and I think I ended up making like 18? Hang on, I'll do the maths. So 10. I made 10 emblems, which is not nearly as bad. Because emblems are powerful. For those who don't know, emblems essentially stay on the board forever once they are on the board. It is very annoying to deal with, because you literally can't. So I didn't want to make too many emblems, and the ones that I do have aren't incredible. Like Soren's probably the best example. You have an emblem with creatures you control are flying and lifelink. And that's pretty fucking good, don't get me wrong. but it's not like game ending, it's not horrible. The worst one is probably you get an emblem with each time an opponent would gain 1 or more life, they instead get 1 poison counter. Because again, I wanted to be a dick. Each opponent creates an emblem with if you are attacked by 6 or more worms, you lose the game. Yeah, Vraska was an interesting one. So Vraska is a character that was recently was completed in All 1, and everyone was super sad about it because everyone loves Vraska, me included. I love her so much. And to hear that she was completed was like kind of upsetting. But I was like, you know what? This is an opportunity. How am I going to use this? And in her art, which I will quickly get. So her art for Vraska Betrayal Sting is interesting for many reasons. One, it just looks fucking amazing. Like, this is the special Phyrexia version they did. And it shows off the best what I'm kind of going to talk about. Like, you can see in the art, this kind of like Vorinclex looking motherfucker. I love it. But what attracted me was like this tail. Like, she essentially has like this little worm coil tail. And I'm like, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of a worm coil engine. Which is a fucking great card. It's fine, I don't pay attention to that yet, we'll get onto it. So that really reminded me of like a worm coil. And I was like, okay, how can I use that? How can I kind of make her like this worm coil queen? And eventually I kind of had the idea that she would just create worm coils, make them more powerful, and then you know, with her emblem, if you're attacked by enough worm coils, you just straight up lose. Because that was something that there was in a lot of Vraska cards. I think I made a note. Lose effects. Now let's go take a drink. Ah, yes. Yeah. Oh, pardon me. Vraska had a lot of lose effects throughout her cards. Whether it be like, if an opponent... I think that one of them is ridiculous. It's like, if a creature deals combat damage, they just lose. It's ridiculous. So, okay, I want to use that. What's like the fairest? And eventually it was just through worm coils, you know. It was like, she's controlling so many of them, there's no possible way you can win. So you just get fucked. And she was also one of the interesting ones in that she herself doesn't give poison counters, but her worm coils do have toxic, which isn't noted here because I ran out of space, but they do. Anything else of note throughout this? Oh, I have to talk about my girl, the Wanderer. The Wanderer is my favourite Planeswalker. I was so excited to do her card. So I kind of made her like this little, not infinite, but it's a really interesting engine, where she can be sent back to the hand. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. Her -3 is return the Wandering Protector to your hand. And essentially you can just keep doing that and then summoning her in because she has flash and she can activate, you can activate her abilities at instant speed. I just, like, she's essentially just this fast-paced, like, get in, get out kind of Planeswalker. And I really wanted to kind of show that in the best way possible. I think that's kind of everything I want to talk. Oh yeah, yellow is not passive effects. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I was like really proud of all this in the end. Like, again, some of them are way overpowered, but like that didn't matter to me. They were cool. They were fun. Like, I just had fun making these. Excuse me. Then we went on to like the more boring things, like or what I consider the more boring things, which is like tokens. I had to make all of the tokens and like get the wording right for all of them. I had to like count the pips and the Phyrexian mana just to make sure everything was kind of like in line enough. Like you can see, I barely have any green. 'Cause I just don't like many green Planeswalkers, and the ones I do like, are the ones I do have in this deck I'm not even a big fan of, but they're powerful, so like, I couldn't just not include them. And then came like the final kind of issue I had, which was art. I was really struggling with like, what do I do for art for this? Because all these characters exist, and I can't draw for shit, and even if I could, it would take me forever to draw all of these things, so what am I going to do? I was like, okay, let's think about this logically. This deck is fully about, you know, variations, and so I lean into that. And so as you can see, I kind of went and found like just little artworks that kind of went with those. And it was a lot harder with like the spells. I really had to search for spells. But for the Planeswalkers, I just found good fan art that I enjoyed and could use. So I credited them all on the cards, and I got them all. I got their art URLs and the person who made them. All of the sigils were made by like this guy I found on DeviantArt called Glacius91. Fucking great artist. But he did the symbols for each of the guilds. I was like, you know what? Those are really good. I'm gonna use them. It's like, you see, he made this Boros one. He's got like this really cool fucking Azorius one that I love. And I used all those. And I went through and just found one for each of the Planeswalkers. Some are harder than others. I'm not gonna lie. Ren and 9 was so Ren is a Planeswalker that kind of has multiple variations. 7, 8, and 9. 6, 7, and 8. And I was like, okay, I'll make 9 then. She's dead now. It's fine. But like, I really struggled to find some of her. So eventually, I found a guy who did like a 3D model of her and her tree. And you know what? I'll just use that. So this is a 3D model rather than an actual art or anything. But you know what? Still looks really fucking good. Cannot fucking fault it. Like, I love it. Which is the other heart? There was one that I just struggled with so badly. Let's see if I can find it. Pardon me. Wasn't hang on. Yeah, I think it was Saheeli. Yeah, Saheeli I really struggled with. Like, there was just barely any art, so I ended up just using a cute little picture that someone did of her and Huatli, because I thought, you know what, that's cute, I like that. Yeah, none of the others were, like, horrifically hard. There were some that were annoying, yeah, but, yeah, I got through most pretty good. Like, I love this one of Ashiok. Ashiok, another one of my favourite Planeswalkers, and I found this epic art of them. It's like, you know what, I'm using that. I have to, there's no choice. And yeah, that was pretty much the main process I went through. It was like finding good fan art, putting it in, getting all of the cards sorted and the wording and all the small details that just really dragged on until I ended up working, my guess, about 30 hours on this. Probably closer to 35. I did more work than I needed to, but oh my god, it took so long. It was awful. It was fun, but it was not. It was really weird, but we got it done. I got it done in the end, including lands, which I'm not gonna lie, I gave up for, and so the majority of the side is just art of other cards. Because again, at that point I just couldn't care. Just couldn't care. But again, got it all sorted. The deck is now made and printed out, and like have it with me, and no one will play with it because it is pretty fucking overpowered, which I kind of forgot when making it. I was like, oh, I have to actually play with this, and it's going to be, going against normal decks. So yeah, I haven't actually used it since, which is really annoying because I spent so long in it. But anyway, that brings us to today. Or more recently, that brings us to about a week ago, when I thought, you know what, I want to do that again. That was really fun. Like, I genuinely did have some fun, like quite a lot of fun with making these decks. So I'll give it another go, and I'll do it a bit more fair this time. And I knew, like last time I kind of did like this little thing about all of the Planeswalkers. This was me kind of planning more than anything. It was like, okay, I'll make 3 notes per Planeswalker. So for example, Sarkhan does tokens, dragons, haste, and mana per draw. It's like one of the first things I did when starting this project. And so I did the same thing with this new deck. It was like, okay, what am I going to do it about? And I spent a while on this. I was initially going to do a Kid Icarus deck, and I had a few ideas for that, but I just think there wasn't enough for me to kind of use to make it like viable. I would have had to have used like both the good and the evil sides together in the same deck, and that would have meant having to do multiple colors. It wouldn't have been fun. It would have just been like a mess of a deck. I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be cohesive and fun at the same time, and like a homage. And I feel like I couldn't have done Kid Icarus any justice, unfortunately. Doesn't mean I won't try. I still have ideas for it, like for a soul system for the forces of the underworld, and Anyway, I ended up settling on one of my favorite things of all time, which is Ruby, which I've talked about on this channel. I love Ruby. I shouldn't, and I don't at times. I really hate it sometimes, but I love it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make a Ruby deck. And I just started like prattling on, making like little biographies, like blurbs almost, like summaries. That's a better word. Summaries, like what the deck would do and what it'll be about. And I kept deleting them and then rewriting and deleting and rewriting until something felt right. And I was like, okay, let's go with this. Ruby is a deck about teamwork. With the commander, Team Ruby, which I'll get onto in a minute, you can search your deck for one of the members of Ruby, Team Ruby, I should put, of Ruby, and put them into your hand. I have changed this since, so I'm going to quickly change it. Hand. There you go. Ruby is a deck about teamwork. With the commander, Team Ruby, you can search your deck for one of the members of Ruby and put them into your hand. They aren't much on their own, but when you have multiple on the field, you can activate powerful team attacks to protect Remnant. Is that cringy? Yes. Is it accurate though? Not really. So, this is the commander for my Team Ruby deck. It is 4 colors, because I wanted each character to represent their own color of mana, which means it's another mana heavy deck. Hooray, I hate myself. So we've got Team Ruby. It is 1, a white, a blue, a black, and a red for a legendary enchantment, which is a bit of a no-no. As far as I'm aware, there is no legendary enchantment that has ever been able to be a commander, but you know what? Fuck you, I'm doing my own. I'm doing it. I'm starting a revolution, an enchantment revolution. So, Team Ruby can be your commander. That's the most important part. And it has 2 effects. 1. At the beginning of your end step, search your library for target Huntsman or Huntress card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. This went through a lot of changes already. Like, I've only been working on this deck for like 5 or... How long have we been working on it? Probably like 7 hours. And that has changed constantly, because I couldn't find the wording. Because initially it was going to be like, you could only search for Ruby, Blake, Yang, and Weiss, but like, that just didn't work well. Because it was like, what if there are only a certain amount of those, and if they all go, then suddenly this is a useless commander that is just not going to do you anything, not going to do you any good. Okay, if nothing else, it can search for any Huntsman or Huntress. So realistically, like, probably 3/4 of the creatures in this deck are going to be Huntsmen and Huntresses, so like, that's always going to have value, and you can only do 1, and it only sends it to your hand each turn. Like, it's not nearly as powerful as Locklear Sea. While still being like powerful enough that you know it matters. Anyway, then it has this second effect. You gain access to the team attack deck. You may activate 1 team attack card per turn. Now this I haven't fully figured out yet, but I know it's what I want to do. I've been working mainly on this idea. So this is the Ruby deck spreadsheet that I've started making, because I like spreadsheets. They make sense. So. I'll start with probably one of the more important things, which is, where is it? There it is. Yeah, team attacks. In Ruby, the show, there is multiple points where they give the team attacks, each pairing has their own team attack. So, for example, Weiss and Yang have Freezer Burn, Blake and Weiss have Checkmate, red and I keep thinking of them as colours. Ruby and Weiss have Ice Flower, and so on. And then the full one is Cannonball, which is only seen in the comics, and it's not actually said in the show, but I don't care, it's canon technically. So I was like, you know what, that's really interesting. What if you had like a separate deck that you could access, where like, if you have a Weiss and a Yang, you can activate Freezer Burn, and if you have, Ruby and Weiss, you can activate Ice Flower and shit like that. Which adds a lot of issues, because that sounds very much like an alchemy system, which I don't really want to do, but also I couldn't think of anything better, and to be honest, I kind of fell in love with this idea. Also realised that should be like that. So I just kind of fell in love with this idea. And unfortunately, they don't have names for like 3 pairings, or in fact, they usually have attacks where it's just 3 of them. But Yang, Weiss, and Blake, which is seen in Volume 9 actually, in the episode where they try and beat the Mad Prince. Oh, where's my chat just gone? There it is. So yeah, like, it was an idea of like a separate deck, so you didn't have to draw them, because otherwise you would end up like never getting the cards you need, and they would just be discarded, because like, what's the chance I'm going to get these? They would be dead cards. and I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. So okay, a separate deck then. A deck that like doesn't go to the graveyard and can be used over and over, which means one, they can't be overpowered because you will be able to keep casting them. So instead, they'll probably be like enhancers maybe, or just did minor things that kind of made the existing cards more powerful. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. And I was like, okay, well, in this situation, if you were doing this normally, you would only have like the chances of you drawing the right cards, even with a commander that can search for specific cards. That's going to take forever. Might not be worth it. So how are we going to make that better? How are we going to make this and the team attacks, which are only available for the main 4 members, worth it? How are we going to make that viable as a strategy? Okay, well, I'm probably never going to make another Ruby deck that's about these. So what if we make 3 of each? So 12 cards total. And this isn't like an unheard of thing. Like for the Brothers War, the Brothers War set, they made 4 versions technically of Azura Mishra because they were such important figures that they made multiple versions of them. And I was like, you know what? I'm digging that. I like that. So I've made 3 versions of each card, each with their own little. Well, it's very easy to go to this. I've grouped them up into 3s. So there is the original 3, which is them at their weakest. They are 1 color. They have 1 keyword and abilities that are cool but not incredible. And then you've got the next 3, which are the probably them at like volume 5, pretty fucking powerful, know what they're doing, still 1 color, but they have another keyword each now. Each one has 2 unique keywords. For example, Ruby starts off with Reach and gets Reach and Haste. Weiss, Vigilance Hexproof, First Strike and Shadow, and so, their second card is like kind of the middle ground, still powerful, but not the most powerful they could be. And then we got the cards. So these 4, I wanted to do something unique with them, and the idea I came up with was transforming cards, which kind of led to this idea of like a Transform Matters deck, which is like a sub-theme now. I realized kind of halfway through, it was like the sub-theme is transforming. And so there's this spell, it's also a gun. Deal X damage to each creature opponents control equal to the number of transformed permanents you control, because there are going to be a lot. Anyway, so yeah, the last 4 cards are all about like them at their strongest, while also being, I don't know. I wanted it to be interesting. I haven't made them. I haven't given them a way to transform yet. If that makes sense. I haven't figured out what the trigger will be. If it'll be like you pay. If it'll be it happens at a certain point. I haven't really thought that through yet. But I know they're going to go into 2 colors. So, for example, Ruby goes from just red to red and white. Weiss goes from just blue to blue and red, and so on. And this is where it gets interesting. Blake and Yang. I wanted to do a meld card for them because I thought it'd be so cool, and also I've never done a meld card before. So fuck it, let's mess around. So if you get Blake and Belladonna and Yang Xiaolong on the field, you can meld them into Blake and Yang, Bumblebee, which is spelled wrong. So let's quickly sort that out. And that's all I have got the trigger for. So Blake had a lot of text, so I had to put it on Yang side, kind of like Brisella, where like I think it's Gisela that has like the text saying what you can do, and the other card is just good. So if you both own and control Yang and Blake, you can meld them into. You may tap them both, and they return as Blake and Yang Bumblebee, which is essentially like a combination of both of their cards. There's a First Strike Trample, which takes from their first 2 cards. And they have an ability of the middle cards, I believe. Is like the 2 abilities on the card. Again, it's nothing like huge. That both, well, they are 10/10 trample, so it's pretty huge. But it's still kind of reined in, kind of. I don't know. It's not great. Yeah, I just thought it'd be a really little fun idea. And then I got into the idea of transforming cards, and that really like paved the way for me because I kind of knew what I could do more with those. So like the equipment, the weapons of the main 4 are all in here, along with Hush, which is Neo's weapon, and Long Memory, which is Ozpin's. I was like, okay, well, let's make these original 4 transform. Like, if they're transformed to their, like, bottom, if they're on their owner, then they go into a more powerful thing. So, using Crescent Rose, which is Ruby's weapon, as an example. We got Crescent Rose, which is red artifact. It's usually a 2 red to equip, or if you're equipping it to Ruby, it's just a single red. Normally it just gives reach and +2/+1, but if it's on Ruby, it gets +4. They get +4/+2. Rubies, I haven't actually figured out yet. I kind of want to do something more with it, but I haven't figured it out yet. Similarly, I haven't figured out, like, Master. Gamble Shroud I have a little bit, where it's like it gets flying as well. But again, I still need to work on this. And they're not fully finished, but the idea is that they all transform, which you can tell in the spreadsheet by the grey colour. And I kept thinking about it and like what else I could do, and I was like, okay, what about like, I think the fucking lights are turned off for some reason. Let's just quickly make sure that's all sorted. Okay, what else can I do with like transforming permanents? I was like, okay, we'll do the easy ones, so like Professor Ozpin goes into Oscar Farmboy when he dies, because, you know, thematic. We've got, I wanted to do a little Spring Maiden, a Maiden thing, so like you've got Ravenbrun Wind, which transforms into the Spring Maiden. I think hers triggers, yeah, when she deals combat damage, you may pay for, and if you do, you transform them into their Spring Maiden form. Similarly, the most recent card I've started making, and started being the main thing, because I have not finished it at all, is Penny. So she goes from Protector Mantle to the Winter Maiden. And the Maidens, of course, being like these powerful creatures, are going to be fucking powerful. Using Raven... Where is Raven? Where's she gone? There we go. Spring Maiden. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, they deal damage to each creature that player controls. Like, that is fucked. But, you know, like, Maidens are powerful. And Raven's good at hurting a lot of people at the same time, whether it be emotionally or physically. And yeah, so we got the main weapons. We got a Lamp of Knowledge that goes into Jin. And then I realized a new kind of card came out recently, the battle cards. And these are a brand new card type that we've never seen before. And there's only been sieges released, battle sieges. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to add those, because they're transforming permanents, and I think they'll be fun. So I did. I've made the Central Location that goes into the Ever After, and the Fall of Beacon, which goes into Wyvern of Mountain Glen. Again, this is just like an opportunity for me to just have fun with it, like just to see what I can do with these new cards. And the fact that they came out pretty good is worrying me. So I'm not sure if they're too overpowered, especially because I haven't done the mana cost yet. I've just got what colours they're going to be. So do not worry, this is not going to be just a black and a red for this overpowered card. I'm working on the costs. I'm working on it. But yeah, overall, I am not that far in. Yeah, I've got 31 cards done. It says 44, but it's only because I've got double permanents as well. So realistically, I've got 31 out of 100. However, I do have like things set up for lands plus the thing. So really, I only have, let's see, 30 left. 30 left. So I'm about halfway through. So that's actually not too bad. It probably looks like more than it is. But I do have to do the transforms for them as well. So realistically, that's like doubling my workload. Oh, I love it when I do things that are needlessly complicated. But there are two that I wanted to bring your attention to, real quick. So, there is Crow Bronwyn, one of my favourite characters in the show. I love him. He's a cynical bastard, and I love it. And I was really struggling with the idea for what Misfortune could do. So, for those who don't know, his character in the show has an ability called Misfortune, which he can never turn off, and essentially brings bad luck to everyone around him. And this comes in really handy in a fight when, you know, his opponent suddenly trips on a rock and gives him the perfect opening. But because he can never turn it off, it means he's kind of eternally stuck making people unlucky, which is really explored in the show quite well. And it's really fun. I was like, okay, how can I do that? And I immediately came up with this idea. Each other creature gets -1/-1. Notice it doesn't say like opponent's control, it is just every creature permanently debuffed, like a much weaker version of the original Alish Norn, Grand Sonabai I think it is. Grand Cenobite is fucked because it gives like everything -3, I think. But that only applies to your opponents, and your creatures get +3. It's awful. It's really bad. So I was like, no, this is going to be full board, -1/-1. So I'll just immediately kill small tokens while leaving everything big slightly debuffed. I was like, okay, he needs like some benefit for everything having that bad luck. So we got the second part. Bronwyn gets +1/+1 for each creature affected by misfortune, which is what this ability is called. So essentially, he gets +1 for every creature on the board, which means I should probably start him off a bit lower than a 5/4. So we're gonna take that down a little bit. Yeah, we'll go down 1, which doesn't seem like much, but we'll see. Yeah, and then the second card I wanted to talk about was Xion Zidane, who they are a character in Ice Queendom, which is like a little spin-off series they did. Again, I kind of fell in love with Xion, mainly because they're, like, as far as I'm aware, one of the few, if not the only, non-binary character in Ruby. I love that. Anyway, so they are a 2/4 with Vigilance. Xion Zidane can't be tapped by effects an opponent controls. You can tap them to tap target creature, and finally you can deal X damage to target creature, where X is the amount of tapped creatures target opponent controls. There are some reasons for this. The main one being, in the show, Xion is a Nightmare Hunter, hence the typing Nightmare Hunter. And as soon as I kind of thought about that, I was like, they need to tap things, they need to put things to sleep, and they need to benefit from things being asleep, because they can fuck things up in a dreamscape. And yeah, this idea, like, immediately I knew that they could tap. Like, that was just there from the beginning. And then I thought about, like, they would surely have this intolerance to Nightmare, it's Nightmare Grim. So, okay, so they can't be tapped by effects and opponent controls, meaning they can still tap in combat, but they can't. Like, anything you do in terms of, like, their abilities, so for example, like, their deal X damage will probably be a tap ability, so they can still tap from that, but specifically, like, if an opponent targets them with something, then it just won't work, they just won't be tapped. Like, Frost Trickster is a good example. Frost Trickster taps a target permanent, it doesn't untap. Doesn't affect Xion. I thought that was really fun. You know, she's a little baby creature, 2/4, which means she's not, like, going to be swinging out much, but they don't need to. They've got it all covered. Yeah, I really love that card. I think it's so fun. Also, Ozpin and Oscar I had a little bit of fun with, because in the show Ozpin isn't necessarily evil, but he's a bit of a cunt. So it's like, okay, how am I going to show that while also showing that Oscar is connected by his own character? So I came up with this idea. I won't read all of this because it's essentially just a list, but you can choose the kind of counter that Ozpin doesn't have from among the list and put a kind of that counter on him, and then when he dies he transforms. I'm going to need to show that he exiles, actually. Hang on. Exile. Card and return. There we go. But I don't really want Oscar to, because if he just comes in transformed, it'll keep all the counters, I believe, and I don't want that. So, just in case I'm not risking it, I'm just going to say he exiles. Anyway, so Oscar is essentially the exact same card, but instead of putting it on Ozpin, because instead of like being selfish and keeping all the counters, he gives them all out to other people. So you can put them on like other creatures, rather than putting them all on the same card. And that was like my little flavorful way of saying, like, they're the same character, they're both Ozma, they both have the same powerful abilities, but Oscar's much kinder with it. He's like he's a kind soul that trusts people, and the best way to show that is like he helps other people, whereas Ozpin keeps all the all the powerful shit for himself. I just thought that was cool. How long have I been going? Fucking hour? How the fuck do I tell? Oh, wait, for 2 minutes. Yeah, probably go for about an hour and a half. Just enough time for me to get tired, hopefully. Just gonna tire myself out. what else do I have to go over? I think that's everything that like of interest that I had. Like I really just had so far I've had a lot of fun with like figuring out the abilities, figuring out the lore, not the lore implications, sorry, the like how I can use the lore to make cards. But I've come across this problem recently. I say like I've come across this issue of like I kind of want to do another deck in the Ruby universe. So I've got the good guys. I've got Team Ruby. But I had this idea, I haven't written it down yet, so I'm going to quickly do it now while I'm talking, because otherwise I will probably forget it. I had an idea for the Grim called Negative... Oh wait, no, I might have. Hang on. Did I put it on there? Nope, that's not the DLC. Yeah, I did. Grim Negative Attraction. I had this idea of a custom keyword for Grim creatures of Grim, which was negative attraction. It enters with copies for each opponent. The idea I had, and the idea that I kind of want to run with, because it'd be really fun, is like a deck with Salem as like the commander, and Salem would probably do something like goading. She'd do some sort of goad effect, because her entire thing is like dividing people and forcing them to fight each other, rather so like she can sneak in, unnoticed almost. So I think doing something with goad would be good. But also, the main theme of the deck is this negative attraction, which would be like the keyword. And the idea is whenever you play like each Grim, or most Grim cards, so like a Nevermore would come in, and it has this keyword negative attraction, which means it comes into the enters the battlefield, and makes copies of that card for each opponent you have. So say you're in a 4-player commander game against 3 people, you would create 3 additional Nevermores. And my logic for this, pardon me, my logic for this is that Grim are just naturally attracted to negative emotions, hence negative attraction. And like, there's an entire, they say it multiple times, like, fear will join the Grim, anger will join the Grim, and it'll be even worse if there's a large populace. It's even used in the show as like an entire, the entire kickoff of Volume 3, like, of the Grim invading an entire city, like, that only happened because there were so many people there. It was that kind of thing. Gather all your enemies in one place, make them scared, attract the Grim, go in the chaos. And it's like, okay, in a Magic card that's kind of hard to show, but what if you do it like, the more people there are, the more opponents you have, the stronger you will be, because you can just keep summoning Grim, they will keep coming. And that's why this ability came about, and like, I haven't done anything with it yet. I don't even know if this is what I want to do, or if I'm going to make this deck, but I kind of really want to, because it means I can use characters that are evil in an evil deck, because so far, like, I've tried to keep Ruby as good as possible in terms of the characters. The only, like, Raven's not great, but also wouldn't belong to Salem, so I'm fine with them being in. And I do have Neo in. Neo is, the only reason they're in this deck, and not in another, is because they are my favourite character in all of Ruby. And it's like, I have to make a Neo card, I have to. It would be against the law if I didn't. So I got Neo Silent Avenger, which is just such a fun card. But, like, realistically, Neo might be in Salem just because she's evil. Even if she's not, like, Salem, on Salem's side or anything, she's still a bit of an evil one. So it would make sense for it to be in that deck, but, like, I don't know if I want to do that yet, if I want to make another deck. Because that's another set of cards. Thankfully, none of them, or the majority of them, won't be transforming, because that just wouldn't make sense. That's this deck. But it would be a lot of work. And it's like, do I do that? Do I give myself that much more work just because I want a few more cards that don't fit in this deck? And unfortunately, the answer is probably yes. The answer is I will probably end up doing that. But, like, I don't know, I'm already cursing myself enough for doing, like, just another one, like, a second deck, because if I'm spending another 35 hours on this, that is 35 hours I could have spent doing fucking anything else. Like, this is not a smart or good thing to do. I'm still doing it, because I find it fun. And I think the goal that I'm going to kind of set for myself to make sure that I do it and also have a bit of fun on the side is to live stream it. So, to do this more often at a more reasonable time, just because I think it will be a bit of fun to kind of show my process. It means I can actually, make them on stream, like show how we go through the process and things. Because I do have a lot of fun doing this. I do have a lot of fun making these decks. Like, the Super Friends deck, like, it was a slog, and it was a nightmare. But, like, I had so much fun with it. It was so cool, like, going through and reimagining these planeswalkers in my own style. And like, were I an artistic person, I would fully have gone through and done the art for all of them myself as well. But I'm not that talented at all. In fact, I can barely make cards. But, like, I think that's going to be like a little goal, because I haven't done much. I haven't made any videos. I've just been struggling with fucking everything, man, these days. And I think this will be a good way to distract myself and to get myself, like, doing videos again, just by, like, instead of planning it out and having to edit it, I'll just put on a live stream, throw on some music, like I've got Camellia going at the minute, and just have a bit of fun making some cards, So yeah, that's the plan. That's the prologue, I guess, the explanation video that lasted a fucking hour. I think next week I'll in the next few days, whenever it is, I'm going to actually start making these decks. I'm making this deck, maybe the Grim deck, if I can think about it. I don't know. I'll let you guys know, because I'll be doing it, I guess. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah. Until then, I think I'm gonna leave it for today. I should probably go to bed. But yeah, I don't know if I'll leave the stream up. I might take it down. If nothing else, I'll keep it up for a few days, just in case. I don't know in case of what, just in case. So if you're watching this, after the fact, then thanks. I don't know why you would, but thanks anyway. Watch out for streams in the future where I will try and show my entire process for this. Yeah. Until then, I will see you all at a later date. Thank you for joining me. They say to no one. Anyway, goodbye.